are the best. But we like the Eastern Oregon efforts to try to catch up.
Oh, I see. The rivalry is launched.
Welcome, Ambassador Tai. Members of this committee have very thoughtful ideas to advance the trade interests of the American people. For example, just yesterday, Senator Young was recognized by the National Foreign Trade Council for his leadership on digital trade. Critically, and I know this from personal experience, every senator on the committee wants to work with you, Ambassador, on a bipartisan basis to execute a successful trade policy. The challenge we face is how this administration approaches U.S. trade policy, both in terms of substance and policy. Substantively, the President's trade agenda emphasizes, quote, the groundbreaking domestic investments enacted through the President's leadership, end quote. Respectfully, an American trade policy cannot rest on massive spending on subsidies. That approach borrows more from China's traditions than ours. American trade policy unleashes our people's talent and productivity by removing foreign barriers through tough negotiations and enforcement. The potential of the American people is staggering. What the administration proposes as trade negotiations and enforcement agenda is strikingly limited. A few examples are indicative. First, American ranchers and farmers produce the world's best and safest food and exported $196 billion in 2022. They can accomplish even more if we eliminate the high tariffs and unscientific restrictions posed as safety measures. The only tariff reduction flagged in the President's agenda is that India will reduce its tariff on pecans to a still overly restrictive 30%. Instead of aggressively challenging non-science-based safety measures, the administration has only this month initiated technical consultations on Mexico's biotech restrictions. Second, American workers are highly skilled at manufacturing and have drawn nearly $1.9 trillion in foreign investment, including a major auto manufacturing facility in Spartanburg, South Carolina, similarly in Smyrna, Tennessee, and Marysville, Ohio, to just name a few. That kind of investment, coupled with American workers' talent, should make us an export powerhouse. But unreasonable product specification standards continue to keep our manufacturing out of many markets. Yet the administration chooses not to pursue a Technical Barriers to Trade chapter, or TBT, in its proposed Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF. In contrast, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, had a robust TBT chapter and explicit commitments that Mexico would continue to accept U.S. cars built to U.S. federal safety standards. Third, our innovators and artists develop life-saving products and films and music that spread American values. Copyright industries alone generate $1.8 trillion in economic output. Yet instead of working to strengthen U.S. intellectual property rules, the administration actually waived U.S. intellectual property rights for COVID vaccines under the World Trade Organization-related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, or TRIPS, agreement, and is even now considering expanding that waiver to diagnostic and therapeutic products. And while we all agree that one of China's most pernicious mercantilist policies is the theft of American intellectual property, the administration does not pursue any IP rules in IPEF or elsewhere that could help ensure China does not benefit from its theft through sales to other countries. Fourth, U.S. digital firms are a major contributor to U.S. economic growth, with the digital economy now comprising 10% of U.S. GDP. The administration has yet to press the European Union, through the Trade and Technology Council, on measures that unreasonably target the U.S. digital economy, even though it readily agreed to discuss the EU's concerns with the Inflation Reduction Act at the very same forum. We can do better, and we must do better. One last example. Behind me is a chart comparing the respective tariff rates that the American, European, and Chinese products face entering Vietnam, a country of nearly 100 million people. You'll notice there's only blue on the chart. That's the tariffs that the United States faces. The red and the yellow is not there because we ran out of ink. It's not there because China and the European Union have entered into agreements that have reduced the tariffs on their products in Vietnam. China and the EU have concluded trade agreements to reduce their tariffs, eventually down to zero, while signature American products like automobiles, apples, poultry, potatoes, milk, and others will continue to face high tariffs. While some of the tariff reductions in the EU and China's deals will take time to phase in fully, we lose ground every day that we remain on the sidelines in real trade negotiations. Given this dynamic, the administration needs to reconsider its decision not to pursue market access in IPEF or other trade arrangements. Unfortunately, the ability to take on these substantive challenges is compounded by one very fundamental problem: the administration's insufficient consultation with Congress. We saw this problem with the negotiation for the TRIPS waiver, and they still continue. In the case of IPEF, the administration refuses to share the views of the same congressionally established advisory committees that assist Congress in determining whether a proposed trade agreement will assist Americans. This chart shows the statute. The text of this statute is crystal clear that such information must be shared with designated members of Congress. The administration also refuses to share attributions of which countries support or oppose particular provisions in IPEF, even though the Trump administration provided such information during the USMCA consideration. This attempt to bypass Congress is unnecessary. Our trade policy is strongest when the administration and Congress work together. And mirroring what Senator Wyden said, the administration should accordingly partner with Congress and the American people, not try to cut us out, because under the Constitution, it cannot. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank my colleague, Ambassador. As you and I have talked several times, the members of this committee have very